Pat yourself on the back because you are right here, right now, for a reason. Welcome to the On Purpose podcast, where together we will empower ourselves and others to live lives with more passion and purpose.
How you doing this morning, Jared?
Feel pretty good, Ollie. I do. Honestly, having the dog in here is a very nice addition to the On Purpose team.
Got a little Chloe supervising the show.
We'll have to get a picture of her and throw her up on social media or something.
Yeah.
Let people see her. Yeah, I'm good, man. See where we at with life. Just, from us, we're getting ready to move Trey off to college and have another big life transition as he embarks on his own adulthood, which is pretty awesome. And, we're just thankful to be at that stage.
Yeah.
How about you?
Definitely big life transitions for me as well. My girlfriend Courtney has officially moved in, and my place already smells better and looks better. I'll tell you that
How'd the
much.
closet work out for you?
Good. I had to give up a lot of space in there, but we also made it work with dressers and closet space and everything. So.
Oh, nice. Maybe you have to downsize.
Yeah. Getting rid of some stuff. Really trying to be more purposeful with our possessions. And realizing, we have a lot of shit.
Yeah.
A lot of shit that we don't need.
That's funny. Yeah, Andrea and I are going through this phase right now as we transition to whatever comes up in the future for us, that everything has to have multiple purposes. Like, if I have something and it can only be used for one thing, we're going to get rid of it. It has to. Because think about, especially, tools, for handyman. They'll run out and buy this one specific tool to cut this one kind of trim that they may do once in their life, and now how much was that tool, and it just takes up space and energy. Or clothes, we'll have clothes and you'll be like, man, I only wear it for this certain occasion. You go to it 3 times in your life, but it takes up space. So yeah, I'm kind of fascinated by how little we truly need.
Yeah.
And yeah. So if it doesn't have multiple purposes, we don't want it.
Okay.
We'll see how it goes.
Yeah. Let me know how that goes. Because there's some things that I'm like, man, only serves a single purpose. You might need it, but we'll see.
Like what? What comes to mind?
I mean, coffee cup, right?
No, it serves multiple purposes. That holds liquids. It holds dry goods.
Dry goods in a coffee cup?
Dry cereal. Granola, you could throw yogurt in there. I could eat it. All
right.
Think about this is
if you really want to, you can make a case for anything. If you really want to keep
not
it,
anything like a suit that I wear once a year takes up space. I have to dry clean it. I have to maintain it.
But then when that opportunity comes up where you need a suit, you're not even gonna have a suit.
Birthday suit, baby.
Birthday suit.
I always got a suit.
That's a different kind of event, man. I don't know about those events you'd be going to.
Trust me. Yeah, I don't know. I agree. You could always be like, well, I could use it for this, that, and that. But I think if you actually inventory all the stuff you have and the stuff that takes time and energy or even resources, if it costs you to continue to maintain it, you're like, why do I a lot of people have cars or multiple cars.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't drive it, or it's only, good for this. And if it brings you enjoyment, keep it. But for me, I don't know. This whole journey's really made us realize we want a lot less things.
Yeah. Well, tying back to the review of our last episode, I guess you can just ask yourself if you need it, right? The answers lie within.
Yeah, I think so. Or ask yourself if you've used it recently.
Right. How'd that reflection go for you?
I liked it. I'm still, like I was telling you before we started, I feel like I'm in a much more, I wouldn't say consume mode, but research mode and collect data mode. So I think for me, realizing answers lie within doesn't mean I always have to have all the answers right now.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes one of the best things you can do is slow down and gather information if you're not sure to help formulate your answer. I think too many times we put pressure on ourselves to know everything right now, and it ties into today's episode about unknowns. There's so much we don't know that sometimes maybe you do need to stop and read and research and interview people and collect information from people that that maybe have more knowledge on a topic, or maybe they do have answers that they believe in. So you collect a myriad of beliefs and kind of form your own.
Mm-hmm.
How about for you?
Yeah, I'm in I'm in a similar space right now. I'm reading this book called The Autobiography of a Yogi, and ironically, I was watching a video that talked about how at Steve Jobs' funeral they handed out that book, and I was like, "Oh shit, I didn't know that."
Really? The Autobiography of a Yogi?
Mm-hmm.
What's the tie into Jobs?
He went to India. He went to India
okay.
and lived there for a little while. But I don't know. I'm listening to this audio book by, it's like this life hacking book called Tools of Titans. Yeah. Tim Ferriss, all these guys in there. And I heard them say that, and I was like, oh shit, I'm reading that right now. No Clowers, no barking on set.
She likes that book too.
Yeah, thought about. Oh, I think she wants to get up there. Is what she's saying. But anyways, this book, and I think I talked about it in a previous episode, is kind of like making me. She'll stop.
Okay, I'll grab her.
Is making me realize just even more just the value of trying to go inward and doing those practices. So I'm trying to bring things inward and practice meditation more, practice more stillness, be out in nature, and unlock some more of these answers within. So. We're helping Clowers get back up to her spot here on set. Thanks for that.
Yeah, for sure. So how's that working for you? Because you are extremely external.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You go out a lot. So how's this working for you? Is it difficult or?
It's a challenge. I'm just trying to do more of it. You know, I'm getting my meditations up to 22 minutes. I'm using this new app. Actually, you might want to check out. It's called Brain Tap. And they have a mix of their guided meditations, but they also have these isochronic tones, they're called, and these like waves that help you get into these like deeper states of meditation. So it's tough, and I'm experimenting with, because I always feel this pull to like post and put out content and share, and I'm trying to experiment with like dialing that back a little bit and spend more time inward, which can be tough for me, but I think I'm making good progress.
Yeah, that's interesting. I've actually been going opposite on the way of apps and stuff. I think my phone said last week my average was like an hour and 10 minutes on my phone.
Nice.
Per day.
That's good.
Yeah, and I don't know if it tracks music because I have to stream music when I'm coaching classes at times, so I don't know if that counted too. Yeah, see, I've been trying to see if I can live my life without a phone.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very intrigued in going opposite of technology for stuff right now.
Mm-hmm.
Not for any other reason than I think I have so much more power within me that I'm not using, and I think that's true for most of us. You know, they talk about what we use like 20% of our brain's capabilities.
It might even be less.
Is it? And I just know sometimes technology is convenient for us, you know, and we lean on it and we forget our own power. So, yeah, I haven't, honestly, if you guys are following me on social, I haven't disappeared. I've just chosen not to post anything. Mm-hmm. I think I did a post this morning right before this episode, and when I was looking back, I hadn't posted in like 3 weeks.
Oh, wow.
Just, honestly, it just doesn't make me feel good right now. It's the little bit of time I do see on social, it's a bunch of people arguing and having no tolerance for each other, and their way is the only way, and especially with the elections and everything coming up, like everybody's just so hyper on alert to jump in and argue with each other that I thought it'd be a great time for me to really reflect on gathering more information and just learning different things. So I've enjoyed Stillness is the Key. Like I said, I think last week I talked about I'm rereading it for the second time and really just starting to get more comfortable with having nothing around me, just quiet. Like even on my runs and my workouts, I used to always podcast or have some music, and now I don't do anything. I just literally try to, if I'm running, like hear the birds, hear the gravel under my feet, hear my breathing. But I did, I bought a watch, and I haven't had a watch in a long time. I had one for when I wore my suit to work, because everybody was like, dude, if you have a suit on, you have to have a watch. It looks ridiculous. And I don't even think the timer actually worked, so it didn't tell me time. It just, I don't know, because I was supposed to wear a watch, but whatever. I went and I bought an $8 little, it's definitely like an old man dad type watch.
Yeah, like a digital.
Oh, yeah. But it has a timer.
Nice.
So I can time myself on my runs, and that's like the only piece of technology I've been taking out with me.
It's nice. It's nice. It's refreshing. There was last month I did, I think like 2 Sundays in a row where I did no phone. And it's nice, man. At first you're kind of like, you realize how much of a habit it is.
Just an unconscious.
Picking it up,
Yeah.
open it up, social, email, text, whatever. But yeah, I think we all can learn from that. And what I'm really enjoying about this autobiography of a yogi book is you don't really meet too many people in the US or in the West that are from a very young age really passionate about seeking new levels of spirituality. Because these, like the life of a yogi, they're going inward and becoming spiritual so much to where there's so many of these masters that reach these levels of enlightenment to where they can go to this place in meditation to where they're not even breathing, dude, to where like you're just like, what? Like they transcend worldly limits of like thinking like you have to eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner. You have to be breathing. You have to, like, some of these dudes can freaking just do amazing things. So it's like, wow. But it's like you said, we're only using such a little capacity of our brain. Like when you're constantly training your brain, your mind, and going inward, you can accomplish a lot more than we even you were capable of.
And I think it gives you some ownership of your emotions and all the things that at times feel like they're out of your control, right? Like something happens and you just have to get angry, or something happens, you have to be sad. And
Right.
realizing that when you reflect, you are in control of your emotions. And it doesn't mean you shouldn't have those emotions, but you get to pick and choose a little more when they come, how you process them when they leave, than we give ourselves credit for.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like you were talking about with the phone. It's amazing if you put phones away and you have conversations, how much more present you are in conversations versus just watch. Like, just when you go out next time, just watch how many people have like their phone on their table. And even though like they set it over here to be intentional in this conversation, as soon as there's a lull in the conversation, or as soon as that topic reaches a climax, it's almost instinctive. They'll go like, okay, yeah. And they'll grab just like, even, just subconsciously grab and look and then put it back. You're like, it's all takes away from our experiences.
Yeah, it's wild.
And I'm
We're
not
addicted to 'em.
anti-technology by any means, but I do, at least for me, man, as we've gone through these last few months, I've realized that I'm much more peaceful, happier, and I just feel more fulfilled and content the further I find myself getting from just the arguing and the banter, and a lot of which comes on the social media and stuff.
Yeah. And what's funny about that is there's so much conviction in things that nobody really knows for sure. Like nobody has any real certainty, right? Of like these are your beliefs, or people telling you, oh, well, look at this and look at that. And we're reacting. We're wanting to put our opinions out there when there can be a lot of value in the stance that you're taking right now. Is just observing, is just trying to gather information. And I think this instinctual culture that we have of always grabbing our phones and always putting something out there, always reacting to something, liking, commenting, sharing, whatever it is, it seems, especially in this time, can be a little bit more divisive than it is unifying.
Well, and it's easy to manipulate you. You know
when
what
you're
I mean?
divided.
Divided, and if you're always paying attention to what I'm feeding you.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? No matter what side of things you think you're on, if you always go to that information source, then you're always being kind of led, and we're not taking time to stop and really reflect, which is kind of what we want to get into today on how do we handle all the unknowns, right? How do we handle all the unknowns that the world's throwing at us, that people are throwing at us, the people that want us to believe certain things keep feeding us information, and we don't know, right? Like you said, we truly don't know. So for me, I've found the best way to handle all the stuff I don't know anymore is to slow myself down, right? And when we were preparing for this episode, I kind of had this analogy, Ali, is right now my beliefs have been challenged. A lot of things I thought were true about my country, my community, my professions, like a lot of things are now being challenged. Maybe they're not true. Maybe what I was taught isn't really true. So now we have a choice to react. Right? We have a choice of how do we handle this. And to me, the analogy I came up with is you got a roadmap. You were planning a road trip, and whether you use your smartphone or old school road map or whatever, you had a route plan to get you to where you wanted to go. But you didn't realize there was construction. Now the road's closed. So now we have an option, right? Our road's closed. So now we have an option. We can pull over, stop, and recalculate or reroute, or we can just guess and take as many turns as we want, hoping we're heading to the right direction. You know what I mean? That's kind of where I felt myself, is when I was getting all this information, I wanted to initially react right away and say, no, I think that's wrong, this is right, was kind of like just taking turn, and hoping I'm going to end up where I want. Whereas stopping and realizing, okay, I don't know. I literally don't know who's lying anymore. I don't know who's telling me the truth anymore. It's kind of like pulling the car over and collecting my thoughts and not being emotional. I'm pissed off that the road's closed, but really calculating and taking in as much information as I can before I make my next decision. So for me, that's kind of been what I found is the most fulfilling thing and the most powerful for me, right? Because I'm now in control. You can feed me all the information you want. You can send all the stuff at me, but I pulled my car over. Mm-hmm. I'm sitting on the side. Mm-hmm. And if I'm pulling my Airstream, I might be in the back having a little snack. Yeah. Right? Totally relaxing as best I can while I start to look at and evaluate, what do I want to believe, what don't I want to believe, what feels good to me, what doesn't feel good to me, and what allows me to move forward in life. Mm-hmm. You know, because I think for me in my life, the times I've struggled, if I didn't know things, when I reacted just as quick as I possibly could to try to move through it as quick as possible. Mm-hmm. Instead of really slowing down. And like right now, such a big magnitude of things we don't know, or at least I don't know, that I really have to stop and collect thoughts and collect information and, what do you think on this? And not ask you, what do you think on this so that I can argue with you, mm-hmm. but to share your perspective, because your perspective is different than mine because of your experiences, your life. And that's kind of in a nutshell how I feel best handling all the unknowns that are coming at me right now.
Yeah.
What about you?
Sometimes it's similar to you, but I feel what I do mostly is just focus on the things that I do know. And because there's so much, and there will always be a lot of uncertainty in our world. Right now it's just magnified, right? But there's so much uncertainty that we're not even aware of in topics that we're not covering, right? Like now it seems like all of these, and in some ways it's a beautiful thing. I'm seeing all of these things on social pop up of like, hey, support, donate to this cause, even, Lebanon, where my grandparents live, of like all these like Impact Lebanon. That's cool stuff. We have Black Lives Matter stuff. Hey, social justice for this person who was killed by the police. Okay, now for COVID, sick people, all these people wanting causes, and it's, you can't be an expert on everything.
Yeah.
Right. So on one hand, it's a beautiful thing, but on the other, it's like, okay, how can I be sure that this is a good cause, and you have this uncertainty. So for me, I like to focus on what I know and have a certain amount of certainty in, and I can't give and contribute to the world if I don't feel that I'm in a good place, in a happy place. So during these times, I'm really focusing on myself and my business and my immediate community. Yes, I understand there's things going out in the world, and I'd love to support that. But if I don't have this foundation and feel strong and positive and happy and confident in myself and my business in my certain local communities, then how am I going to go be a positive influence on a bigger scale, right? So especially in times like this, like I do feel that call sometimes to, like I was saying earlier, share, post, and engage in these worldly things. But right now I'm kind of dialing it back. And I've said this before, a lot of people disagree and are like, oh, well, you're the problem, but I'm not going to vote. I'm not going to go to the ballots, because I think that's an issue that I've seen over, the past few elections, that it doesn't, the only way that presidential elections have impacted me in my personal life has been stressful conversations, divisive conversations. I have not felt a different magnitude yet in my business or personal life from Barack Obama being president to Donald Trump being president. To me, there has not been a huge significant difference. Some minor things, but I choose not to engage deeply in these political conversations or these larger issues, just because I don't have a confident level of certainty in one side or the other, right? So what I do focus on are things that I have certainty in.
Yeah, that's interesting. So you don't engage in those, and ultimately, because you don't have certainty in the outcome or certainty in the process, like what is it you're uncertain about? Because I think this is an important step for people, because like the politics is just such an easy example, because everybody seems to have an opinion very strongly, one way or the other. Yet I would argue for most people, they don't know that the facts they truly believe, if they're true or not. They're just told to them. So how do you decide that that's not what you want to participate in?
That right there is not really knowing what I'm being told, if it's true or not, and just feeling that the experience that I have been like, okay, you know what, I do want to get a little bit more educated on politics, and it becomes exhausting and very divisive conversations, and it's not coming from a place of truth, right? Like we're divine human beings. Like we can feel that, right?
Sorry, go ahead.
To where if it's something that's not coming from a place of truth, and it's coming from a place of ego, or it's coming from a place of, someone trying to convince you like this side is right, this side is wrong, and you see the whole process, there's no compromise. It's one side or the other. There's no middle ground. So in processes like that, where there's no middle ground and open and honest communication, it's like, I don't want to be a part of that.
Right. And I think you hit it right on the head. And that's, excuse me, that's where I was going to go with that, is conversations about politics don't feel good to me. And I've yet to see in my life anybody that's left a meeting with politicians that's inspired, that's motivated, that's right. Like you're talking about the autobiography of a yogi. Is there any doubt in your mind, reading that book, if you spent time with him, you'd be like, or any of the people in there, that you'd be like, wow, there's so much more I'm capable of.
Sure.
For sure. Stillness is the key. You read that book and you like, okay, yep, there's more I'm supposed. You don't feel that way, and that's kind of one of my filters, man. If I just don't feel good at the end of it, if I don't feel good during the process of it, then I probably shouldn't be wasting this little bit of life I have on it.
Right.
And that's a big thing for me with the unknowns, right? Is how do I filter what unknowns I'm going to step into? Is do I feel good doing it? Because unknowns are not a bad thing.
No,
right
we
now,
need them.
We do, but right now there's so many unknowns. It's kind of daunting.
Yeah.
Right? We don't know about Corona. We don't know about the economy. We don't know about the election. We don't blah, blah, blah. So what do? Sometimes too many unknowns paralyze us. We sit right where we are, and we stay with what we already know, which is I believe this political party is the best, or I believe this is true, or that's true and that's false. Right? We stay there instead of really exploring, okay, let me attack some unknowns. Right? Because once you step into unknowns is where you grow. Once you step into unknowns, right, it's that's where new experiences lie. So I don't want us to be paralyzed by unknowns, but I also want us to be kind of smart on where do we put our time looking into things.
Yeah.
You know, and I'll be perfectly honest. I have found myself at times getting drugged into so many conspiracy rabbit holes.
Oh yeah.
That because like nothing makes sense to me right now, nothing at all. So I'll be like, damn, then like no shit this morning. Who's your YouTube guy? Sadhguru, dude.
Yeah.
True story, 100%. Before this episode, I was sitting at home. I got up at 4:30. The moon and Mars are right next to each other, so I'm just amazed at that. And I was like, all right, I'm gonna listen to Sadhguru. I go to YouTube. First thing that pops up on YouTube is I'll get the name of it wrong, but it was literally something survival guide. What'd I do? Click. Next thing I know, I went to watch something that was gonna make me feel good and open my mind. Next thing I'm watching is some guy with this tactical knife that he could hide in all his pockets, and I'm just like, what? I fell for it again. You know what I mean? Because sometimes the unknown leads you to different places, and you gotta control that. And that's like one of those things. Like halfway through the video, I'm like, I don't feel good watching this. Is ridiculous. Let me get off here. And then I couldn't remember the name of the dude I was trying to find to begin with.
Oh, that's funny.
But it's easy to do, right? When we're surrounded with so many sources of information, to not have a plan kind of for where we're going with our unknowns, not having a plan for what we want to research, and then you just click whatever comes up. And that's what I got to struggle against or fight against.
Well, I think so many of us have that. So many of us. I mean, I can't tell you how many times. That's why in my office when I'm working, I have work timers to where not looking at my phone, not getting distracted, because even aside from the phone, even on the computer, there's so many distractions, emails, like the world is constantly competing for our attention 24/7 around the clock.
That's so interesting. But guess who a lot of times doesn't compete for your attention?
Who?
You. You won't be selfish with your attention. We'll just give it away, right? Like that whole, like my example there. I literally went to look up a dude you really like. I'll watch him because I need to get some different thinking going. And instead of being selfish with my attention and only going there, I get distracted by some dude with some knives.
Right.
And next thing I know, 10 minutes later, I don't feel any better.
Right.
As a matter of fact, I might even feel worse because I don't have that knife.
And I think that's a great compass, is how do you feel after taking in some information, right? And that's why with politics and stuff, for me, it's never felt good. And right now when there's all this uncertainty, people are trying to should all over you. You know, you should do this, you should do that. Even in politics, like if I share with people and I get a lot of heat of like, you don't fucking vote, you know, like that's why, like you're the problem, like kind of thing. And people tell me like, oh, you're a business owner, well, you should do this. He said that. You should do that. And even politics, like Joe Biden saying shit like, you're not black if you don't vote for me. Like how strong the shoulding. And I don't like people trying to shit on me. You know,
that's
like
funny.
You should do this, should do that, to where it doesn't feel good. And a lot of these like Eastern yogi masters and stuff, you'll see that a big practice is just letting go. Letting go of things that you feel you should do, you must do, and being okay with uncertainty and just trust, right? Faith. So back to your example of like tactical knife and stuff, the coronavirus, the fear of it is ruining people much more than the virus ever actually will. Like your psyche, your entire being, it can be infected by the fear before the virus ever touches you. And I think that's what's happening. If we're over here, you know, stocking up on weapons, stocking up on knives, we're literally manifesting an event that we're going to need to use all this.
For sure.
When we can have faith and go back to a place and be like, hey, you know, there's this stuff out there, but I'm going to have faith that it's all going to be good. The likelihood highly increases.
Yeah, no, that's very good. And I think that is one of the best ways to handle stuff that is unknown is go back to your faith, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
To go back to the things that have made you feel good in the past. You know, and I think that's where we struggle sometimes is because there's so many unknowns. We want to look, like we were talking about last week, external for answers, when really a lot of times they lie within us. And it is your faith, it's your beliefs, it's taking control of your breathing, it's your physical fitness, it's all the little things you do that make you feel the best.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you decide kind of what you're going to listen, ignore, believe, and how do you honor those parameters? Do you have any tips for our community or any hacks you have? Because I definitely struggle there because, like I said, like that example, I'll go on to look for something. And even if I'm only on, like my phone said, like an hour and 40 minutes a day, something last week. Mm-hmm. What have I done in that time? Mm-hmm. Like, where's my attention gone?
So I believe anything that is shared, there may be some truth to it to a certain extent. You know, I think that every conspiracy theory out there, there's probably a couple elites that are pedophiles, right? There's probably some racist cops. There's probably a little bit, but to understand that the news, the media is magnifying things, trying to make it seem like the entire world is out there. Yeah, of course there's some racist people. Yeah, but is every cop racist? Is everyone in the US racist? Of course not. You know, so I think even anything that we hear or see, there has to be some sort of truth to it, or it wouldn't be in reality. It wouldn't be in this construct that we call life. So I think that anything that comes up, I entertain with a small grain of salt of like, okay, this could be true. And then I choose not to focus or always think about truths that I don't feel good about. You know, it's unfortunate that there are, like, the Save the Children thing is something that cuts up. Like that hurts the heart of any human being to know that there's these poor children out there that are getting kidnapped, that they don't, you know, especially parents that raise children, like to know that that's out there. It's a sad thing. It hurts your heart. So that's not something that I constantly want to have at the top of my mind, but I want to more focus on the solutions, right? What can we do? What are the solutions that feel good? And more at scale of like, okay, I want to make sure that I'm putting love out into the world, that I'm putting good practices that people can do to become better people out in the world, practicing gratitude, practicing meditation, practicing whatever your spirituality is, right? Your faith, things that feel good. So that's kind of what I do of like, when there's uncertainty, I believe like anything that I see there, there's probably a little bit of truth to it, or else it wouldn't be
somebody believes
a
it.
discussion. Exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of how I navigate. What about you?
I like your comment solutions over problems, and I'm firm on that, and that's something that I've always preached. Even supervising people for many years, is I didn't want them to come to me with a problem without a solution. Like if you can identify a problem, then you need to take time to identify a solution. And I think, quite honestly, that's why I've been quieter the last couple months. I haven't done my videos as much, is because I don't necessarily know that I have solutions to the problems right now. I need more information.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I initially I thought, okay, I can help solve this, and I'll jump right in. And then as things continue to progress, quite honestly, I'm not sure people actually want solutions to problems. I think they want just problems for the sake of problems, and they want problems to find more problems. But I agree with you. I think when we as a society and communities get to the point where we're done finding all the problems and we're ready to start solving them, that'll be a good place for us.
Mm-hmm.
Because then we can have real conversations to get down to fixing things. So for me, until we're to that point, I just want to gather more information. But I think that's the focal point, right? Is gathering information not to find more problems or to place blame, but to find solutions. Has this unprecedented time, like all the stuff we've gone through, has it changed your long-term plans or visions?
More short-term than long-term. Yeah, not so much the long-term. I still have the same visions, but it has motivated me to become more specific with my long-term visions and long-term goals. I think everything that's going on in the world right now has made me kind of realize the importance of being the change, being what you want to be in the world, manifesting these things. Because I really believe that a lot of everything that's going on is a culmination of what we have manifested over the last several years, and as a collective kind of brought upon ourselves. I think that this is, the universe, Mother Earth, however you want to say it's way of telling us we need to slow down and we need to go inward. And some of the previous conversations that we've had on the podcast about how so many people need stay-at-home order, like the other day I went out and, the whole state of Colorado, everything closes at 10. And I was just thinking about how, like, normally bars go until 2, and how it was really nice to be like, all right, had a couple drinks, ended the night at 10, and me thinking of, like, this is probably really good for a lot of people, and even just the town. Like, here in Fort Collins, we have a lot of homeless, and I forgot one of our guests, one of their quotes was like, nothing good happens after midnight. But just how, like, these imposed changes of the world, like, at first may seem like it's limiting our freedom, but may be good for us. Like, what are the lessons in it? And sometimes the uncertainty, things that were meant to grow out of being uncertain of how things are going to manifest. So I think for me, like, long term is still the same. I still want to be a massively positive influence in the world, right? In whatever, in multiple ways that I can. And that's not going to change. I think what's changing is just some short-term things, kind of like you said, may need to pull over, reroute, get a different route, go around this construction. But yeah, same for me. How about you? I know you've made some different moves lately.
Yeah, we have. Some which I'm not ready to quite share yet. Honestly, I think it's shortened my long-term vision. I think I used to look at long-term as way down the road, and I've gotten an appreciation that I really don't know what long-term means. What my long-term could be a week from now, 100 years from now. Like, I don't know. So I'm just we've made some adjustments, and some things I didn't think were important in my life have become more important, and things that I thought were very important have become less important. And I think that's what can happen when you take time to stop and actually think about what's going on in your world, take ownership of it, right? Like if we just sit, and because there's so many unknowns, we go victim mentality, which is, okay, my business would have been doing this if you hadn't shut me down, and I would have been here if only I could travel, right? Which is, for some people, it's a very natural tendency to go to a victim mentality and blame, blame, blame. But the reality is, whenever this is over, if it's ever over, you only have you to blame because you didn't do anything with it. Yes, businesses were closed. Yes, you got to go home at 10 o'clock instead of 2. Yeah, all that's true. But what you do with that is still up to you. Mm-hmm. What do you do because now you're home at 10? Do you get some extra rest? You know what I mean? Like, so for me, that's where it's definitely changed my long-term vision, but not in a negative way. Mm-hmm. More in a way of, okay, certain things that I thought were important are no longer important.
Yeah.
Things that I didn't think were very important are much more important. So I think it's good for me. Is there a lot of pain? For sure. Is there a lot of uncertainty? Absolutely. But again, how would you grow if you weren't given that?
Yeah.
You know, and maybe that's a lesson a lot of us take, is that our lives were too comfortable. Mm-hmm. Everything was right there in front of us, right there on our phone, right, everything.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden now, we don't. Mm-hmm. Now we're limited in certain ways that we wouldn't have maybe limited ourselves through discipline, but we can grow from it.
Yeah. And for me, I've recently been trying to move away from specific visions, and it kind of counteracts like what I've believed before, because like, you know, some schools of thought are like, you know, the more specific that you can be about your visualization. And I used to be super specific of like, oh, you know, by this date, I want to sell B-nails for $22 million. And I want the On Purpose podcast to have, you know, 10,000 subscribers, and all these like specific metrics and everything super specific, to where now I'm more trying to visualize and focus on like the feeling, like how I want to feel and how I want to be. And that, kind of going back to feels better. It feels better because I think when we try and pigeonhole ourselves to this very specific outcome, then we put blinders on, and we might walk over even better opportunities because it's like, no, I need to be in my business for 5 more years, and I'm going to sell it for this much to this type of investor, or whatever it is, you know, in any realm. I need this specific partner, you know, I need to meet the woman who does this, and this, and maybe the best woman for you is exactly the opposite of what you think, you know? So I think in every, like right now, my relationship, you know, her moving in is a big step. That's a big step. And sometimes I get caught up in being like, oh, well, you know, is this the right decision? Because I'm 29, she's 31, biological clock. Right now, I'm not ready for kids. Am I going to be ready for kids here in 2-3 years and all this stuff? And it kind of comes back of like, okay, don't worry about like if I need to have 2 or 3 kids by this age or whatever. Just how do I want to feel? Yeah. And if I want to feel that way, you know, God, the universe, whatever you want to say, maybe kids will be a part of it, maybe it won't. So I'm more focused on like trying to find the feeling that I want to have every day. Yeah. And I'm getting that through community, through interactions, through loving interactions, and trying to replicate more of that.
Yeah, and I 100% agree. And I think that can eventually be the big lesson for many of us, is realizing that all the stuff we thought we needed, all the things we thought we had to accomplish, are pretty shallow if you do it by yourself.
Yeah.
You know, and if you're always stepping by the next person, you don't even have time to acknowledge, right? How many times have we talked about the grocery store clerks, and the community's probably tired of hearing it, but it's such a simple thing. But now it's pretty important. If you're only going out of your house minimal amount of times because you're at risk of this stuff, and the grocery clerk's one of the few people you talk to, sure it would be nice to have been nice to them before they're the only person you talk to.
Yeah.
You know, and I think the same thing. I think we're in a good time to reset a lot of stuff. And part of it is what we prioritize our energy, where we prioritize our time. And yeah, I agree. It's funny because we've been a big vision board family. We've manifested some crazy stuff off our vision boards, like the Airstream and certain other things. And now we don't even have our vision board up because we were like, okay, there are so many unknowns. We don't know what new rules are coming out next week or school, like all these things we don't know, that it's hard to have a vision on the board because we don't control all the variables to get there right now. Or we don't even have say. Quite honestly, we're being told what the variables are. What's more important to us is spending our energy on things that make us feel good. Instead of trying to visualize what it's going to be in 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. What feels good today? What feels good right now? And, we go paddleboard, and we've gone on a lot more hikes. We've, done some things that are going to put us closer to nature and away from less people. And, less time on technology, more reading, more writing, and I think it's funny because when we get hit with all these unknowns, and for a lot of us, the biggest fear is the unknowns take away our control. And when we're looking for that, a lot of times the things that make us feel good are the most basic, elemental things that have been in front of us the whole time that we just didn't have time for.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We didn't have time to just sit and watch that bird feed.
Yeah.
But now we do because you're quarantined.
Mm-hmm.
And I think for us, that's been a big thing. Is life is very simple.
It is. We've made it so complicated.
We've made it so complicated, and then we created this expectation that your success and how I'm going to view you if you're successful is if I never see you because you're so busy and you have so many things. So when I do see you, I'm impressed by your things, but there's no merit. There's no character to you. There's no development. You know what I mean? Like we got so far the opposite way that my hope is that we do come out of this, and it's naive, I'm sure, because there's a lot of people won't, but for our community and for us, I hope we come out of this with a much greater appreciation for the people in our lives, and what they truly bring to us is far more important than any things we buy.
Mm-hmm.
I mean?
Yeah, and it's the lessons we know and that we've heard many a times. How many extremely wealthy people have had all the possessions, the boats, the planes, the cars, and they're on their deathbed like, the fuck did I do with my life? Like, I wish I would have spent more time with the people I love, cultivating more relationships. And you see that so often, right? Back to the visualization piece too. Like what I'm doing and wanted to share is visualizing myself feeling good more, visualizing myself laughing, even crying tears of joy, throwing up hands of victory, like yes, or I like to do like a little fist pump, bicep flex, like sometimes like thinking about that, visualizing myself learning, like, oh, aha moments, visualizing that, visualizing camaraderie, laughing until my stomach hurts, visualizing the how I want to feel, and not limiting the events, limiting my visualization to events that I think will make me feel that way.
Yeah. That's
right.
Yeah. No, I was going to say the same thing.
Because then the possibilities are endless. Who knows what the beauty of the universe can bring you to have these feelings.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to be limited in what you think. It doesn't need to be growing your company to this, or it doesn't need to mean that your partner needs to be all of these things. So it's unlimited. So I've been experimenting with that. I don't know if it's right or wrong.
I think it's just positive imagery.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like for me, like our vision board was very thing based.
Right.
We had the Airstream on there. We had the, I wanted to have my book out by this, so we had pictures of books and pictures of me speaking. And, a certain dollar amount. They're all things.
Mm-hmm.
And what I've learned is things come and they go very quickly, and things may not matter. So what I've done is more visualizing on things that make me feel good. So like right now on my phone, I have a beautiful sunset that I got to witness at a new location, a few months ago. Because I remember I experienced something new. I was in a new place. I took time to just really stop and watch the sunset. Made me feel good. You know what I mean? So more of that, like pictures of my family. Just the things that wouldn't normally have been on my achievement list. Like I didn't vision board, like I want to watch sunsets.
Right.
Because you could do that every day.
Mm-hmm.
But now all of a sudden, I'm like, wow, that sunset
You're like, oh, wait, watching sunsets actually brings me joy.
brings me stillness.
Yeah.
It brings me humility. The fact that that sun has risen and set and does it all the time, far before my life and many, many years after my life. And I think that's a key, right? When you're humble and when you're humbled, you approach life differently. You appreciate things differently. And to get humbled means you realize that you're not that important. And sometimes it's because there's unknowns coming at you. But when you're in that frame of mind, you approach them different, right? That unknown isn't super scary. It's not something to fear all the time. It's not something to hide from. Learn about it and decide if it's worth your time. And if it is, learn more about it. And if it's not, move on.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so that's how we approach it. And that's funny you bring up vision boards because Andrew and I were just talking about that the other day. We don't even have it up anymore. Because like, it really doesn't seem that important right now.
Yeah. I think what is important is to know that we have those capabilities to manifest what we're constantly focusing on. Yeah. So if we're constantly focusing on these negative things and constantly in fear and constantly watching the news and things like that, we're going to manifest things that create more of those feelings.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's a balance between being knowledgeable and having an idea and awareness of what's going on and being consumed with it.
Big difference.
Huge. And slippery slope when you get in there.
Yeah.
You know? So, yeah, I don't know, man. It's one thing I do know for sure is that there will always be unknowns in life.
Oh, yeah.
Always. But how we handle them is completely going to be up to us. And hopefully we're progressing and we're learning to channel it in a positive, productive manner that makes us feel good. Because, you know, say this, we're like in our 5th month of this deal now or something. We started in March. If you're just paralyzed and you're just sitting waiting for somebody else to come up with answers, you never get this time in your life back. You know, and we should be doing activities and things that are going to make us better today, tomorrow, and in the future.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of been one of my goals. So that's why reading, thinking, watching sunsets, being out in nature, I feel has been critical for me because it's kind of like I pulled my car over. Now I'm just gathering information to pick my best route.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no rush to get back on it. And I think that's one of the things. I think that's what the vision board does, right? Because it usually has a time. So there's a rush to get back on the path, rush to get back because you've got to try to meet this. Without my vision board, without setting the goals at the end, now I have time to just sit because I don't know. You know, especially like reading stillness is the key, and some of those real like stoic thinkers from the day. One of the things I've really taken away is they didn't rush the process of finding themselves or finding the answer to whatever it was they were seeking.
Mm-hmm.
And I think too many times we try to rush it.
Yeah.
Right? It's like getting back on the expressway, go, go, go. And the next thing you know, you miss your exit again. So you got to take another, you know what I mean? And we get in this constant loop of kind of just rushing to the next thing without really consciously knowing why we're doing it.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see.
Yeah. Uncertainties are necessities.
And unknowns, man, you got to be able to process them. And if you think about it, that what separates the people that really evolve and become successful from those that just stay where they are, a lot of times isn't how they handle when things go great. It's when they're faced with times like this, when everything's unknown, there's so much uncertainty. Where do they put their energy?
Yep.
Good. We got some practice for him, Mr. Ali?
We do. Some purposeful practice. Part 1. How do you identify what you have control over? Part 2, how have you changed where and how you spend your time? Part 3, have you adjusted your long-term visions in day-to-day life? And then part 4, email your practice to onpurpose.official@gmail.com. Remember, this is a community, so we want to interact with you guys, engage with you guys, help you guys on your journey, and you sharing may help us have some realizations as well.
Yeah, for sure. It's we all have different thoughts, opinions, experiences, and this is a safe place for people to be able to explore those and to dive deeper into why they believe what they believe, or who knows, maybe you realize that what you believe isn't necessarily right and somebody else was right all along, or there's somewhere in the middle that we can improve.
Yeah, definitely. So we want you guys to email that. And again, remember, this is a community, so feel free to share this episode if you think it can help someone else. Share these practices. We don't have all the answers here, right? So we depend on our community to interact and engage so we can all come up with answers together.
But we love seeking the answers and trying to find truth. So speaking of communities, thank you to all of you on Patreon. We do have many levels of tiers there, and if you want to dive deeper, financially support the podcast and help us to continue to grow and share our message, we welcome you. We'll have the link in the episodes, and you can find it on our website page. So thank you to everybody, and we continue to look forward to serving you and being part of your journey as we push through all these unknowns.
Yeah, definitely. We have our a certain level tier mastermind coming up, so anyone interested in that, there is a tier on the Patreon page to where you'll be getting in once a month, monthly calls with Jared and I and the rest of the mastermind community to really dive deeper onto some of these topics to help the mastermind group live life with more purpose.
Yep. Awesome job.
All right. Thanks, Jared.
Thank you. All right, team, as we wrap up another episode of the On Purpose podcast, we are thankful for having you all on our journey. We want to announce new ways to include you and let you go deeper into our community. First off, we got the onpurposepodcast.com website where you can subscribe to our monthly newsletter, get inside tips, and see what's coming up in the upcoming months, as well as our new launch is our Patreon account. We have 5 tiers where you can decide at what level you want to contribute to the podcast and the community, help support us, continue to push us forward and grow. And it's as little as 50 cents an episode or $2 a month, all the way up to $50 a month, depending on where you want to be. Perks of this are sneak peek episodes. You get the episodes quicker. You get to contribute on episodes. You get monthly Q&As with Ali and I and special guests. And you get to be a building block for our community as we continue to grow worldwide. With the release of Shelly Davies' episode, we are now international, and we're excited for the future leads us. So please fit in with us wherever you are comfortable, and remember, team, life is far too short to live any other way than on purpose. We'll see you next week.